Hey, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of unschooling experts. Um, there's a lot of people out there who are looking for expert advice on how to get started on schooling. What does unschooling actually mean? Does it work? And so they're looking for validation in some way. They're looking for proof. And this might be you, like lots of parents that are getting started with unschooling. It can feel really, foreign compared to how we have been taught to look for learning, taught to look for, this is what education looks like. And so they really want to be reassured. So I get that. That makes a lot of sense. However, I really need to point out that the idea of looking for an expert on the subject of unschooling is kind of a really big oxymoron. Because unschooling is all about dismantling the power construct, the idea of that there should be a top-down authority of this is what education is supposed to look like and this is the correct way. Because the proof is in the pudding. If you want to look for an unschooling expert, look for someone who either has been unschooled their whole life and is now an adult, or look for the mom who has been unschooling her children for many, many years, and maybe she has raised some children to adulthood. Because the people who are going to be the quote-unquote experts, I mean, if they have a teaching degree or like a psychology degree, I mean, we all like Peter Gray, for instance. He's really cool. I'm not sure that he actually unschools his children. I'm not sure he has children. I know that he is a writer for Psychology Today. He is a psychologist, so, that gives him a certain amount of clout. But if he is not boots on the ground, unschooling children of his own day in and day out, and has been doing so for many years, I'm afraid I can't really look at his opinion about our educational methods or approach as anything more than just an opinion. And for what it's worth, Peter Gray does have good things to say about educational styles that look like unschooling, but he's not an unschooler. And it's important to be clear about that. I was talking with a friend of mine, Sue Patterson. You might know her. She does Unschooling Mom to Mom. She's actually an amazing, dare I use the word, expert on unschooling. Why would I call her an expert? Because she has adult children that she has raised through an unschooling lifestyle. And I believe her children have children that are unschooled. So she has been doing this thing that we call unschooling for many, many years. I think something like 35 years. So yeah, I would definitely consider her opinion as something of an expert because she's been doing it. Who better to talk about unschooling from a place of wisdom and knowledge than someone who's been doing it all of their life? So when we were talking, it came to my attention that there are some people out there who, I mean, it almost cracks me up. Apparently there are folks out there who are calling themselves like expert unschoolers, unschooling experts, unschooling like mentors who don't have children. What? Like, it's laughable to me that someone would be that completely ballsy and like falsely confident that they're like, oh, I'm an expert on unschooling, when they don't even have any children of their own, let alone have unschooled themselves. Like, maybe you studied it, maybe you've like read about it, research, maybe you've read Peter Gray articles, and so that this works. You've met other unschoolers and you know that this works. But I have a big problem with that they're presenting themselves as like, oh, we're the experts on unschooling. Like, I'm sorry, no, you're not. If anybody is going to be an expert, quote unquote, it's going to be you, the parent, as an expert on your own children. Because I can tell you all day what's worked for me with my children, and I've been unschooling for a long time. I still wouldn't say I'm an unschooling expert. I've been doing it a long time. I have gotten results with my own children that I am pleased with. But you know what? My kids are not like your kids. Like, your kids are not like my kids. We don't know. We cannot objectively say, oh, unschooling works because the things that I've done will automatically replicate, to every child. Because guess what? They're different. That is the entire premise of unschooling, is that each child is different. We need to individuate what we're doing. We can't just... There's a great unschooling quote that goes around, and I'm sad I don't remember who it's by, but it's something along the line of, teaching is like throwing marshmallows at a child's head and calling it eating. You can teach, but it's not like an objective, this is how all children will learn. Maybe if you're a good teacher, what that means probably is that you're very flexible and you can tailor your educational style. Oh, are we talking about test results? Unschoolers don't really care about those. But I digress. What I'm getting at is, if you're seeking expert advice on unschooling, you really need to kind of drop that expectation and get comfortable with the discomfort of, you're not going to have an authoritative source. Like, one of the cool things about testing and all those things is that you feel like you're being validated. If your kid has like really high test scores, you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing good, everything is good. But that is not an objective measure. We think it's an objective measure. We've been taught to view it as an objective measure, but it is not an objective measure. You can be a really good test taker and still be not that bright. Or you can be extremely bright and be a terrible test taker. So what does it really tell you if a kid gets great test scores? It means that they're good at taking tests, or it means that that particular test or that particular day or this particular subject interested them. It could tell us all sorts of things. It is not an objective measure of intelligence or knowledge. And so, I'm going off on tangents here, but yeah, if you find yourself looking for expert advice, please look at other moms or dads. Look at parents who have been doing this life for a long time. Don't look at somebody with credentials or somebody with a teaching degree or somebody with a psychology background, because that stuff might be cool, but if they are not living the lifestyle of unschooling with their actual children and doing the ebb and flow and the dance of figuring out what works and being willing to admit that they don't have all the answers, they're not really, that kind of expertise is not what we need. And so, if you're going to get anything from this, please take it as, have more confidence in yourself as a parent, because you know what's best for your child, because you spend the most time with them, because you know them intimately, you have watched them grow, you have trusted them to take their first steps, you have trusted them to figure out, how to build with blocks or play with Minecraft or anything. You've trusted them to form their first words. So how much different is it really to figure out reading or anything like that? Math, anything. Ultimately, you are going to be the one that can understand what your child needs most of all. Maybe that's curriculum. Maybe that's a tutor. Maybe that's being left alone to play whatever games that they're interested in. Maybe it's a combination of all three. Even if you find what works, it won't necessarily be the thing that works forever. It is a constant evolving process. It is a dynamic process. And being a good unschooler has to do with being open to whatever changes, being on alert, being able to notice, oh, maybe this was working for my kids before, but it's, things have changed and it's different now. So this is getting longer than I meant it to be, but please, please, please do not go seeking expert advice, especially not from people who don't even have children of their own. That's crazy. Would you go and ask somebody who had never ever made a scrambled egg how to be a great chef? No. So don't do it with unschooling either. The best expert that you have on your child is yourself, and the best experts that you can ever seek for unschooling are going to be unschooling parents, particularly long-term unschooling parents. Sue Patterson is one of them. I'm another. There's a lot of other ones. In pretty much any unschooling group that you find on the internet, you're going to find at least a few veteran unschooling parents. Maybe they've got adult children that have unschooled. Maybe they themselves were unschooled and are now raising their children in this way. Maybe they've just been at it for a long time and they can tell you what works and what doesn't for them. So, that's what I have to say about unschooling experts.